Bezos trying to take down all Microsoft Activision products.
He's real. He's like, wait a minute, hold up, Phil Spencer, you don't get to try and one up me.
I think we look better.
Yeah, we got a green check, and the upstream is a lot more consistent. No drop frames yet. I think we're good. Yeah, let me just let me make a cut here in the audio recording as well. Sorry, just so I know where to go and weld it after the fact. Okay. All right, so we'll do this. If it happens again, we're just gonna muscle through. So, anyways, we left off with Kyle as a DDR maniac, apparently.
Former
DDR.
It's been many years, and I want the hardened pad of a live location. So, compounding years at the moment.
Yeah. So, do you think about it much now, Justin, or does it just kind of feel natural being on air? And
it's definitely still a little bit unnatural for me. It's not as natural as playing is, just because I've done that so much more. Like, the pressure of playing on stage for whatever reason didn't really bother me, whereas just turning my webcam on to stream bothers me a little bit. So I don't really know what the difference is. I think it's just more of a social thing versus like a technical thing where I'm a little bit more comfortable. But yeah, it's definitely getting better for sure. I'm nowhere near, like, it's not even close to when I first started. The first day I was probably like almost shaking, could like hardly breathe from how nervous I was at the start.
It's like I've had to do, like, I do graphic design and art stuff, and I've had to do demos before, and I never really thought about it. It's the kind of thing, like, when I'm in there, like, working on my own stuff and getting work done for clients, I don't think about it at all. And the second you stop me and ask me to explain what I'm doing, or like interact while doing it, it takes about 3 times as long as it would be if I was just left to my own devices. But also the first few times I did that, it was just like, wait, what am I have to verbalize like the decisions I'm making and why I'm making them. Like, that's just weird, as opposed to, being in the zone and just getting the job done. So I bet it's a little something like that too.
Yeah, it's just knowing people are watching. It makes everything a little bit weird because you have to be like a little bit more conscious about everything, like your movements and stuff, especially after watching my that one interview where I was spinning in circles. Like, I was just consciously aware of it after that. Like, don't do that, and I'm doing better than before, at least.
Yeah, I used to scratch my nose a lot more than I currently do. Just like, stop that. I need to stop that. But that's interesting. So, like, what was it like in the early stages, kind of going from playing to being broadcast talent?
So it was definitely a difficult decision to make because I do love playing, and I'd say at the beginning, my biggest thing that I was feeling was that I wanted to play. Like, just watching how much fun everybody was having was like, and seeing at the very start of the season, teams were a lot weaker than they are by the end now. So it kind of made me want to just jump in there and fix everything. Because like before doing the analyst thing, I'd done some coaching. So my initial notes that I was taking were just like every mistake that the teams were making, and I was like, wait a second, that's not right. Like, because that's just like the mode I was in. Typically when I'd take notes on watching games, it would be, to fix the problems for coaching. So I just wanted to play, and then it took me a little bit to get into the analyst mindset that I'm highlighting the winning team more so than pointing out the critical mistakes that led to the losing team losing.
Oh, that's interesting. I didn't think of that hurdle. Yeah, because I've watched all the broadcasts, and I can't see that evolution from you. Yeah, because I remember you talking about where someone maybe misstep or step too far up, and those kind of waned off. I mean, you also have Twitch chat there who is giving their own analysis of what's going wrong, and oftentimes that level 1 talent, and you're like, that's the one that everyone goes. It's literally the only
Yeah.
level 1. What are they going on about?
Yeah, there have been. That is the one thing that I still like to be critical of is the talent choices, because that's such an easy thing to fix. That's not like a mechanical mistake, because that's the same as in coaching. Like, if someone makes a mechanical mistake, it's whatever. Like, you can't, like, what are you gonna tell them? Like push your buttons better, like use your mouse a little bit better. Like there's really no fixing that. But things like talents, I feel there's a lot less of an excuse for that. It's
Okay,
just kind of being aware of win conditions and stuff.
let's ride this for a hot moment. What are Justin's top three? You can go over three. Most mispicked talents.
So I'd say right now, I mean, my primary focus is on tank talents because that's the thing that I'm most familiar with, that I've experimented with the most. I'd say I don't see enough Devil's Due, and I see too much Spell Shield when the enemy doesn't even have really any spell damage, just out of habit, because the Spell Shield does get the cooldown reduction if you go the Fire W build on Diablo, which is pretty meta right now. So that makes sense, but when you're against two auto attack based damage and you're still going the Spell Shield and they have almost no spell damage at all, and they maybe have percent damage with a Tychus or something, it just feels so wrong to do that. I think they're just doing that out of habit. So I'd say the Spell Shield level 1 on Diablo. Another one I would say is the 7 talents on Muradin. Or no, actually the 4 talent on Muradin. I was seeing every Muradin take the double W at level 4 where it does the little AoE under his feet a second time. But the only reason anyone ever used to take that talent was because you had the 13 with the healing static so that it would proc twice and you'd get more healing. And I'd see people take it every single game, even when it was double auto attackers on the enemy team where you could take reverb and just cut their damage in half. And they're all go fire at 13, so there's really I can't comprehend why they take it. It does like 75 damage or something. It's just it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. And then the third one, I guess, would be Hogger builds. Pretty much everyone goes the same build, but I've done a lot of experimenting with the W quest level 1, where you get the infinite stacking, and I think that you can go a completely different playstyle on objective-based maps. They all take the passive at level 1 and 4 on Hogger, but I really think that you can get away with a stacking build with the W level 1 and then take the Hortipult level 20, where if you're on Infernal Shrines or something, the level 20 Hortipult is just disgusting, where it throws meat everywhere, or it throws meat everywhere and it throws bombs everywhere. And if you combo that with the level 1, you get the healing every time a bomb hits, so you're pretty much just invincible on something like a shrine. And it lasts for 20 seconds, so it's kind of weird to me that I haven't seen any build diversity at all for Hogger.
Oh, yeah, so this the journeyman's cooking. I didn't think
Yeah.
about the secret stash throwing bombs. 100% win rate, one game played in the CCL. Can we talk about Hogger for a hot moment? This win rate is atrocious at 32%. Is there a dream like that the Hogger player just sees camps being taken and they said, I did my part and moves on and doesn't really think about the game as a whole? Like, it's
Uh,
shocking.
yeah, I think a lot of it is that his playstyle is very different from the other offlaners. He's a lot more aggressive, and he's a lot easier to kill than the other offlaners. The other ones are all so tanky, besides Hogger. Hogger's kind of tankiness comes through just his CC and using his abilities well. And also, we have seen a lot of Hortipult ints where people just dive super far into the backline and just get deleted. And same with the level 20 with I think it's the no control at level 20, where you latch on and just start spinning around. I've seen a lot of Hoggers just kind of press that and immediately die. So I think it's just because he has like a really risky play style. So if you're losing, it's kind of rough to be a Hogger.
That's fair.
Haven't seen it much in home games, but certainly got a lot of my personal Hogger kills when no control hit the board. It's just like, oh, they're just gonna keep going. Okay, everyone target the Hogger. That's interesting. Do you play a lot of like games at home? Like, do you do pickup games? Do you do Storm League? Do you do quick match? Like, I can't help but you mentioned Diablo, and I think we even heard Grubby do a bit of a lecture. Makes it sound so boring, but he made a point about how kind of unvaluable Feast on Fear can be, and that is a really popular talent in our games at home.
Yeah, it is weird. I think Devil's Due is almost always the best choice for Diablo at level 1. I think you pretty much either go Devil's Due or Spell Shield. The Devil's Due the main thing with it, some people think it's kind of like a meme talent, but if you get your team to prioritize playing for the globes and you actually make a constant effort to do that, and you always make a constant effort to only fight when you have a pre-tap, I think it's the strongest level 1 by far. You get like 3 health bars. You just pre-tap, and like my comms when I was playing Diablo, I would pre-tap and I'd be like, all right, I'm invincible, I'm just running at them. Like, do whatever you want. Like, I'm invincible for the next like 20 seconds, so have fun, team. And I don't think any other level 1 talent makes you able to do that.
Doesn't Feast on Fear also have a issue where it replaces its own healing? It doesn't stack, right? So if I were to
Yeah.
charge, pick up, charge, I'm just resetting 10% healing.
Yeah, so that kind of incentivizes the awkward Diablo combo where he stuns him into the wall and then kind of looks at him for a second before he flips him because you want to maximize that healing. That's like people who don't play Diablo, that's the thing they hate the most is when they're trying to follow up and the Diablo stuns and doesn't immediately flip, so you miss your Li Ming combo or something. And yeah, it does kind of incentivize that because the heal doesn't stack.
Interesting. Thanks for sharing that. How are you feeling about the kind of new Johanna meta we have found ourselves in? Because that has trickled into the game at home. Like people are going Falling Sword, which I was surprised. I thought it was going to take a lot longer for us to adopt that in pickup games.
Yeah, so Falling Sword I think has always sort of worked better with Johanna's playstyle and the rest of her kit. So everyone used to pretty much take Blessed Shield, but it was really evident. I mean, like back in like the HGC days when Johanna was pretty popular, people would typically take Blessed Shield and one-shot the enemy frontline with it. So the idea was just that she could use her Unstoppable on her D to just be invincible, and then against the enemy tank, like not be able to get one shot by the enemy tank, and then just wait for her moment to Blessed Shield, and your whole team just combos the tank and kills it. Whereas people were picking Blessed Shield back then, even when they couldn't do that, and it was really evident that they didn't understand why that wasn't working. So, in my opinion, Blessed Shield's only for one-shotting the enemy tank, pretty much, with the exception of maybe you're playing against like a Tracer or something that you need to lock down. And people would pick it every single game, even though I think the playstyle of falling sorting into the backline and then pulling them all together and then slowing them all just does more. I think it just synergizes better with her kit, with her condemn, and with her Q. Because otherwise, there's really no way to get into the backline. But if you just jump on their backline and set up your own combo, it's super strong. But Johanna now is very different from Johanna before. Her 20 for Falling Sword is really good. And I think she's the most broken hero in the game right now. By far. I don't think... I think if you lose with her in a competitive setting, that your team had to have made major mistakes. And I just don't think she should ever be let through the draft. I think she's just way too strong.
Writing that thought and the current overpowered heroes, at least in the public mindset, there was a lot of Rhaegar that just got through this past weekend. Was that all just personal snipes because the teams knew each other so well at this point? Or is Rhaegar not actually that big of a deal?
He's really strong, but the issue with prioritizing him is that you're either giving up the Johanna if you don't ban it, or you're giving up... you're basically trading Rhaegar for Lucio and Stukov, which I think are just about as strong as Rhaegar is, even after all the buffs. So it just feels really bad to first pick Rhaegar and leave Stukov and Lucio up, because then you're kind of just trading good healers, and it doesn't feel like you got a really huge advantage. Because the supports are just really, really strong right now. And so are the offlaners, which is part of why Johanna is good, because she's a flex pick, but just the offlaners and the supports have been kind of incrementally buffed recently. So they just feel kind of ridiculous. It feels like you can't really get banned out of having a really strong healer.
Interesting thoughts. I always look at that and think it is because of how well the teams know each other. I look at that, I'm like, well, if it's powerful, it might be a powerful hero in home games, but probably not worth letting a like a main pick for someone else through in a lot of scenarios. But yeah,
His totem build is really strong. I'd say him and Stukov are probably the best supports, but I'd say that they're close enough in skill level that unless there's nothing else up that you want, then picking the Rhaegar makes sense. The totem build is really, really strong though, for sure. He's a whole different beast from what he was before. He was nearly unplayable before, and now he's probably the best support in the game. So big changes for him.
So what about the season brought Anduin into that fold of early pick powerful healers?
So Anduin did receive some buffs, but he didn't get immediately prioritized after that. It kind of took a while for people to play with him more. The main thing I'd say is Anduin synergizes really well with a lot of the current meta heroes. Like for Vala, if you're going to pick a Vala, you would rather have an Anduin as your healer than a Lucio or a Stukov, just because he's more reliable at saving her with his pull and having that consistent single target healing with his Q. So a lot of it is just because of what other things are strong in the meta right now. And he did get the little buffs, but I don't think that's the main thing. Being able to stop the enemy team from one-shotting your tank with the pull is really strong, especially because it's kind of a focus the tank meta. And yeah, I would say that's the main thing. And also things like stitches just work really well with him. There's a lot of ways to deliver the light bomb as well with meta heroes like Johanna. You have the Hortapult from Hogger. There's just a lot of things that Anduin synergizes pretty well with right now.
It is easy to do. That is very true. And I thought it was really interesting that they really grabbed onto Censure, I think is how you say it. The level 20 talent that gives a light stun. Well, actually, it's 0.75 seconds stun to Chastise.
That's decent. That's a good length on a stun.
Yeah, that works really well with the 4 talent too. If you take the one that lets it hit two heroes, that makes Anduin CC a lot scarier. Also, that's the one CC that I don't know if it's just because I wasn't playing the game a ton when he got released, because he's one of the more recent heroes, but I almost always get hit by that. Like, I don't even see it. It's just this tiny little slightly glowing orb he throws at you, and it's hard to even see it.
It's slow, and there's always that feeling of it won't go that far. It's going to be fine.
Yeah. It's been a long time since I've been like surprised by like a Kael'thas gravity lapse, but yeah, I still get surprised by Anduin for some reason. But it's just another slow moving thing. I don't know. I think Anduin players out there, like even people, just playing in quick match and Storm League, like they've just gotten good. They know they use the environment, they use the terrain, they know what corners are going to be going around, and that's where they're putting those things. And it's insidious. Good job, Anduin players.
It also looks like a heal, so you kind of want to walk into it on instinct.
That's true. I never really thought about that, but you're right. They don't look. Anduin's abilities do not look menacing, or they don't look unfriendly even when he's on the opposing team. It still just looks like, oh yeah, it's time to go get a heal. Although I guess you could say the same of other, I'll going all the way back to Uther being in the meta. Like he's got a line attack too that's just like, oh, it looks like a heal, but it hurts. It doesn't hold you in place though. So it's interesting stuff. Well, that's rad. Well, but before we I want to get your thoughts on some other stuff too. We got it. We're not getting out of here without at least mentioning Microsoft. But before we move on topics, we do want to thank our patrons who are supporting this program over at patreon.com/ITN. So if you're out there, you're listening to Kyle and myself and the wonderful guests we choose to come on the program week in and week out, check out patreon.com/ITN. It's the best way to support us. And we do pay our guests for our time, and it's because of the support over on the Patreon. So thank you very much, everybody. And we've got some new patrons to thank this week, which is very exciting, especially coming out of the holidays. Usually see a downturn, but Gregory Lopes and Metter, thank you very much for signing up and becoming a patron. We got some perks for you. If you go to patreon.com/ITN and sign up, you're going to get access to our Discord. You can also join us for our monthly game nights, which we are doing one next week. It'll be post my birthday, Kyle. I will probably have an extra adult beverage.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah.
Well, then maybe we can do that Zeratul light bomb we did last time.
Yeah. Hey, dude, whatever I don't have to think too hard, you don't
have to think too hard about that. No, it's pretty easy.
Sounds all right. So, yeah. Kyle, I believe you have an update for everyone listening who wanted to know what was going on with you and NGS this season.
Yes, we did register. We did it. We filed our paperwork in time, and it's all set. So, and I'm actually going to be support player for that. I'm really, really excited about that. I get to play heals. I've been down the tank road, assassin road for Storm League, but solo lane for like 2 years now. I'm just really excited for the mix up. Really excited for it. So we'll be talking about that going forward. This is more of like a housekeeping, uh, the upcoming content, as it were. We're going to continue to talk about CCL here, of course, for the rest of our show and talk to our fine guests. But we want to let everybody know too that next week we're going to do an in-depth look at the Microsoft acquisition. News is still coming out every single day about that. Well, it's been 2 days, but every hour, basically, there's some new thought about it, something coming to light. Previous thoughts, how long this has been going on for, it's all still leaking out. So we will talk about that next week.
Yeah, we'll be going in depth. However, just how are we all feeling? We're all Blizzard fans. We've all been through some shit the last year or two. Looking at the company that makes the games we love and finding out a lot of things about it. And now we're learning that it's being acquired by freaking juggernaut in the form of Microsoft. Like, Kyle, I'll throw to you, or go ahead, Justin. How are you feeling about this?
I can't imagine that it will be a bad thing. It's certainly possible that, Bill Gates could come shut everything down, but I'm not really expecting it to be a bad thing. I think everyone would probably mostly agree that the Blizzard Activision, the issue has been much less Blizzard. So I think it seems that a lot of the issues, at least from my perspective, playing in HOTS and kind of trying to give my criticism before HGC was canceled, that because to me it seemed like there was some writing on the wall that things were not really being done properly, and that kind of aided in the downfall of HGC. And I think a lot of that stems from like the management of Activision and kind of the expectations that they put on the teams at Blizzard. So because I think they have, Blizzard obviously has just incredible IPs. They have World of Warcraft, StarCraft. They have Diablo. They have all these like crazy huge just intellectual properties. They have really good content, but I think a lot of it is just because of that direction forced on them from the upper management. So I'm hoping that Microsoft is going to give them a little bit more leniency, because they're not really going to be relying purely on Blizzard to pump out numbers, because it's going to be part of a big array of games that maybe their expectations won't be quite so high at first, at least. And maybe we'll see some better management stuff coming in, because they won't need to extract a certain amount of money from any Blizzard games in particular, because it's part of a bigger kind of array of games.
Yeah, that's certainly the big positive I've seen across the internet, is people just saying the amount of money that Microsoft has will allow Blizzard to slow down. Not that they're moving fast, it's more so it'll give them the breathing room they once had before investors and that sort of upper pressure caused them to chase every tail that came their way, every dragon they may have seen, every idea that kind of came in. Loot boxes now, wait, no, and we're hearing even more. There's a story today about that old Bobby Kotick was demanding the Overwatch team go on these financial journeys and come up with this idea to only cancel it 2 weeks later. And then they go, well, okay, all right, well, back to Overwatch 2. And then he came out and said, well, the reason why we even sold was because Overwatch was so delayed. It's messy. It's messy.
What a brave man. I'm really glad that he was brave enough to come out and take no responsibility at all.
The idea of like just having to punch your employees one more time after the sale is just insane. But
did you see the thing that said he was trying to buy sites like Kotaku so that he could make them report positively on Activision Blizzard? Like what an absolute, you're like James Bond villain levels of douchebaggery. Like, this is hysterical.
It's like the Jeff Bezos meme. I saw the same thing with the Wall Street Journal, where it's like Jeff Bezos acquires Wall Street Journal, and it's like, opinion, Jeff Bezos is actually a pretty cool guy. It's like, like,
yeah. I think it was it Washington Journal, Washington Post? I forget which one.
I don't remember. I hope I didn't slander them. Post, I don't remember which one.
Yeah. No, it's just been, dude, like, just buy another yacht and stop talking publicly, please. Just go away. Which eventually he will. Eventually he will go away.
I find it interesting just how many franchises and fandoms have come out of the woodwork, because we, of course, here at Heroes care about Heroes. We're like, oh, right, chances are higher. They're better. Like the baseline, they've improved. But there's also like a Guitar Hero over here, like, yeah, all right, do it. And then the Prototype fans are like, woo, Prototype 3. And I'm one of those.
Well,
I've
even
admitted as such.
within Blizzard, like everyone, like,
Yeah.
probably my favorite. There were so many memes to enjoy for sure. There were so many memes, and here I will mention the big one for Heroes of the Storm. Yes, I am here for a Master Chief to be added to Heroes of the Storm, please, or at least a Raynor skin. I'll take that. But one of my favorite ones that come out was with that image that they put out along with the announcement that showed all the franchises. My favorite thing was everyone just clowning on, oh my God, they remembered StarCraft exists.
Yeah,
Another
no HOTS in that
one?
picture.
No, but they
Yeah.
do not, to my knowledge, they do not have a MOBA franchise, which is kind of exciting. StarCraft, of course, is in a little bit more of the limelight because they did over at Microsoft Age of Empires recently. So they at least, somebody over there believes in RTS.
Yeah, and it's the same team essentially. It's all part of the Classics division, so there's that as well. I also follow Hearthstone, and we were clowning big time because we're like, why did they leave Hearthstone off? We're pretty sure that's the only Blizzard game pulling in money right now. So yeah, it's a little weird. Some people are like, well, there's Warcraft and Hearthstone's part of that. I'm like, yeah, but it's a World of Warcraft logo. It's pretty specific. So I don't know. It's a little weird, but yeah, I share both of your thoughts. Where to me it's a net positive. There's still just so many unknowns, but Kyle, I'm so glad you pointed out like everyone else that's like coming out of the woodwork, like, oh my God, please, Activision's been keeping my favorite franchises just in a locker and doing nothing with it. Could you please? It reminds me of for me, like as a Star Wars fan, it's like when Lucasfilm got acquired. I'm like, oh cool, we might actually like get more Star Wars now, because we kind of only had like 6 movies and kind of called it quits. So it's just like, I'd like a little bit more from the franchises that I enjoy.
Well, that was what, $4 billion for all of Star Wars, and this was $70 billion.
Yes, Marvel was also $4 billion, if you can believe that. Disney acquired Marvel for $4 billion. They acquired Lucas for $4 billion, and this was just shy of a meme-worthy $69 billion.
That's wild. Because, I mean, Blizzard does have crazy IPs like World of Warcraft and all these things that can't really be replaced, but that is pretty nuts to think that it's like 15 times more valuable than all the superheroes. Like, that's crazy.
Yeah, it is wild for sure. So it's as someone who covers Blizzard games, like, this is very exciting. I mean, this is going to be a lot to chew on. I'm anxious to see where it goes, and I'm hopeful that it's just a positive shift in the wind overall. It already feels that way a little bit. So, anyways, speaking of positivity and awesome stuff, the CCL Grand Finals are this coming weekend. And we would be remiss if we didn't talk about it with you, Justin, seeing as you're on the program today.
Yeah, I think the story of kind of the whole season is 30K versus everyone. And the grand finals is going to be no different because 30K is locked in. So the big question is going to be who they're up against, if it's either Simplicity or Wildheart.
Can you be impartial?
Yeah. I mean, just from watching the games, I'm expecting Wildheart to come out ahead, but that's not like a bold claim because Wildheart did 3-1 them earlier in the gauntlet. So that's my expectation, though. I think we'll probably see a 30K Wildheart finals, but a lot is just going to come down to who shows up on the day, I think, between Simplicity and Wildheart.
In your past as a competitor, have you ever been in that position, though, where you were on the back foot and kind of getting not your clock clean, but taking an L? Like, is there a chance where it like drives them more? They get hungrier because they already lost Wildheart once?
Yeah, we had a similar situation to that before getting reverse swept by Team Freedom, trying to go to the last BlizzCon 2018, where we played against them in the regular season at the end for placement, and I think we 3-0'd them and we kind of showed a lot of stuff the first time. So that was kind of regretful to have to show so much to beat them. So we might see a similar situation with Wildheart and Simplicity, where if Wildheart showed everything that they had just to win that series, it might come back to bite them if Simplicity is able to kind of take that and study it.
I have heard that they've been going like 8 hours this week, like every night. Those players are,
Simplicity
well,
or
all
all
of
of
them,
them,
like all the
all
teams
of them, yeah.
are
Just
just training
scrimming?
like nuts. Yeah, because often one thing we sort of hear, is well, it's a tournament. These are tournament players. Let's not get too esports professional on everybody. They've gone nuts. Like every single team is training out of their minds for this grand final.
Yeah, that was what we unfortunately had to go up against in season 1, where we were kind of owning and we were feeling pretty good about ourselves, and then we took like 2 weeks off for the holiday break, and we came back and we found out that Simplicity was just going hard for like 2 weeks straight, just scrimming every day, and we're like, oh god, like that's not the same team that we thought we were going to be going against. And yeah, they really powered up. So that it's not a huge surprise, I guess, because it does seem that that's kind of what happens in CCL. Is at the start everyone's like, let's just have fun, and then at the end, once it gets close to the finals, it's like, all right, we need to scrim this many hours a day, this many times a week. Like, we're gonna get a sub for you because you're not gonna be able to be here Thursday, and it's like super serious, like non-stop grind at the very end. And I mean that makes sense because that's where like the stakes are highest. But and it does make for an exciting season too, because that means that you have teams just very practiced going into the finals and semifinals.
I was really impressed with 30K though. I mean, they came back after almost a month break and still managed to look really good into Storm Esports after Storm Esports did like the whole gauntlet. And they 3-0'd Chili Mountain, 3-1 Oxygen, 3-0 Diamond Hands, and 30K didn't look rusty.
Yeah, 30K is super scary. I think they do kind of look like they're just above everybody else right now overall with their coordination, and sort of their macro is really clean. Like they play just extremely well. They understand how to like trade objectives and how to play to their win conditions. They just look really, really nuts. So it's going to take quite a bit of practice, I think, for either Simplicity or Wildheart if they do want to beat them. And something that makes it even more impressive is the fact that they're all playing with ping, um, with the exception of Liam. I think they're all playing with ping. So we don't talk about that because it's like, I mean, it's not really good to like talk about that. You don't want to blame any games on ping, especially when you have a cross region league. But like I looked back at our scrim record against Tempo Storm from back in the day, and both teams had like a near 100% win rate if we were playing on either Central or West, because they're all West and we were all Central. So it really does make a big difference at the highest level. So to see 30K come out and just look so dominant, even with them all playing on a even bigger ping difference than we were in NA at the time, is really impressive, and that just makes me even scarier, I think.
That's wild. Because I mean, back in the HGC days, they would bring out like private servers to the events, like, and there were so many damn times where like it was evident because they were playing on the previous patch. I was always grumpy too because I was like, no, I want to watch esports. I want to see the game that I'm playing at home. I want to take notes and bring it into my games.
Yeah, the playing at LAN was so much fun, and that was where there is no ping difference, so you could really determine for sure who the better team was. So that was fun. I loved the LANs, but in practice, it was actually like we were just trading wins on our respective servers in scrims.
One of the craziest things that 30K does that I love seeing, Twitch chat also, I love watching them because they get so confused. They understand what they drafted in terms of macro and their lane clear and how they're going to do camps. And it sometimes means like Diablo ends up solo lane for the first 10 minutes of the game. And chat's like, whoa, no, they don't know how to play. While they're coordinating, actually moving around 2 assassins who have no body to actually hang out and get XP globes to deal with the camps and then trade off with Diablo eventually. It's a dance, and it's really impressive.
Yeah, they're just nuts across the board. They're so strong. They understand their windows better than everyone else. Like they set up windows of opportunity for themselves too, just on the map. And they pretty much only take fights when they have advantages. So even if they lose a fight, they're still kind of just winning everywhere. So it is really impressive how they kind of prep everything for everything that they do.
I'm lost in thought thinking about how it would be pretty damn hard to even if we could make private servers work. Like LANs are not a modern thing right now. It'll just be difficult to pull off.
Yeah, it's a unfortunate time in the world for LANs at the moment.
Yeah, I'm feeling very wistful about it. So.
Well, Microsoft did acquire MLG, so we'll see what happens.
Oh, you're right. Oh, God. Oh, goodness gracious me. All right, so hold up. Microsoft needs to now acquire Razer so that they can produce more of those masks. And you hand them out at all the LANs, and there you go. You bring LANs back because you control mask production. And it has LEDs in it because it's a Razer mask. So, it goes
I haven't seen that. Is it a gamer exclusive gaming mask?
What is that? Makes it looks cyberpunk as hell. The two filters have ring LEDs built into them. Yeah, it's exactly what you think a Razer mask would look like.
Yeah,
it looks like Mass Effect DLC.
Okay.
That's a good way to put it. That's a good way to put it. Well, rad. I'm curious, behind the scenes, what does prep look like for you for going into the finals? Do you are you like an old school? Do you like old school notepad? What is your prep for getting ready to work the casting desk?
So far, I've been kind of surprised with my ability to recall previous games without. I think it confuses me more to take notes a lot of the time. I take notes during every game just so that I make sure that I have kind of the talking points that I want after the game kind of laid out, and I sort of just keep track of a progression of what's happening in the game. So usually I make a column on a spreadsheet, and I sort of color code it with which team got the objectives so that I can clearly see the team got 3 objectives in a row or something, and then after that I'd put they got the first objective because Murden died and they got up for it or something like that. But for the overall season stuff, a lot of it is just from memory. I don't think I have a photographic memory, but I definitely I can recall if someone brings a game up, I can pretty much recall the specifics of that game even from 5 years ago. I'll remember being in a certain situation, on a map doing a thing. I remember there pretty much any standout moment I'll usually remember. So I think I've done a pretty good job of just off the top, just recalling specifically who beat what team in what week and stuff like that. It's just, I don't know, it's just a repetition, I think, just playing so many games. And in competitive, you really have to learn from all your mistakes and all your triumphs. So it's kind of just ingrained in me to remember those big moments.
That's awesome. That's encyclopedic memory.
Yeah, it seems to only apply to HOTS, so, or any game that I play all the time, I guess. But
that's fair. I have 90s jingles, so we'll cover all the bases eventually.
Yep. Yeah, you want a Corn Pops commercial from the 90s? I got you. Well, we're gonna do. We got some questions from our listeners. This either came from our Discord or itncast@gmail.com. We're even getting some questions in chat, and I'll do my best, chat, to keep an eye over there and pull in questions if we've got a little extra time here. But we're starting us off. De La Soak wrote in and says, very important question. My girlfriend and I love whenever your cat wants up on your shoulder. When we see you cracking a smile during CCL and then your cat gets lifted up shortly after, is that a slight smile because the cat is batting at you and asking for pets?
Yeah, usually. So when the green screen's up, she doesn't have her normal avenue of getting onto my desk. Now what she likes to do, so if the green screen is down, she'll literally just come from my bed that's behind me and she'll jump up onto my shoulder. She'll jump up onto the chair, and then she'll just have her paws up here, and she'll just I'll have to convert her into a holding position from above me. But when the green screen is blocking her favorite mode of entrance, she usually just hops up on my desk and is sitting like right on my mouse pad, and she just like looks at me. She like pushes her nose at me and like looks at me like weird. She like turns her head and stuff and like gives me these weird looks. So I know that she's trying to get picked up, and that is when I'm usually like smirking because I mean it's cute seeing her hop up here.
My cat Dexter, he'll just start squawking the song of his people at me, like no warning. Just walks over and just starts going at it. Back when he was a kitten and I was playing, this was back in like Heart of the Swarm days. He would jump up and smack the crap out of my monitor trying to catch the cursor.
No, my cats have never done that. I don't know. I tried getting Springy to watch a cat video on an iPad, and I decided after like seeing how she reacted to that might be kind of bullying, because she's like trying to catch the things, but they're not actually there, and I'm like, I don't know what this is doing to my cat's brain. I'm gonna take this away. Like it sounded cute at first, and then I felt bad. She's like scratching at it, scratching under it, trying to like find the bugs. Yeah.
Kyle Karth is making it through the whole episode, right? He's in the room with you.
Oh yeah, no, he's never on camera though, because he sits in this really old rickety chair on a pair of jeans. Like there has to be an old pair of jeans in this very ugly old chair for my cat to take a nap. So he's currently enjoying what is off screen and always off screen.
Nice. I demand a photo at some point.
Okay. You can see the old IKEA chair, weathered and worn, torn and bruised, and the pair of jeans covered in fluff.
Sounds good. Sounds like a good time. I've got a seat to my right for the racing sim rig, and it's just covered in cat hair. Just absolutely covered. A lot of naps are taken over there. All right. Tiger Skippy wrote in, says, for Justing, first I want to say it's been so awesome to see my favorite player since the Roll20 days become my favorite caster as well. Now that you're out, who do you think is the most interesting team to watch draft and shift the meta? Also want to know what tanks do you think we undervalue?
So Diamond Hands got knocked out, but they're probably the team that did the most innovative draft things. Now it's 30k plays pretty much the same style always, and it's super standard. So I don't think they're really innovating too much in draft. They're kind of just, they've nailed down though, what works and what's strong right now. Wildheart is probably the team that still has the most interesting drafts going into the playoffs. They do a lot of combo-based stuff where it feels like other teams can't really, aren't capable of running that type of style. So it is cool to see them do that. They run a lot of the Stitches comps and these other things that are just really combo-oriented and somewhat unique. They have, I would say, the most defined style as a team. Storm had a style as well where they would typically run these really deathball-y comps where they're just all on the same page just by all going forward and fight. But it did feel like that kind of got countered by Simplicity. I think they figured it out. And Wildheart, I think, is a little bit more adaptive than that. For the tanks, I think Muradin is the best tank in the game, but almost nobody goes the build that I think is best. The jump slow at 7 and pretty much just the jump slow at 7. And I think Haymaker is not a troll ultimate. We saw Lauber take it and get a lot of value with it against the Medivh. I think if you don't need the avatar, then Haymaker is just insane. I've been a bit of a Muradin one trick right now in Storm League. When I really want to win, I just play Muradin, and I'm pretty much always just going Haymaker because it just feels like it gets way more value. I think you can do more with it. And I think if you're playing intelligently, usually if you're going to get one shot as Muradin, you're not even going to have time to get your avatar off anyways. So I'd say Muradin is the most underrated right now.
Do you have quick tips for players at home as to how to Haymaker effectively?
So you pretty much are always comboing with your jump, but if you're playing Muradin properly, you need to be kind of constantly playing out of fog. You're sort of just permanently pressuring the enemy team on their flank, because if you're playing within a safe distance, you're pretty much just close enough to be able to jump in and start an engage, and just far enough away to not get engaged on yourself. So you kind of just sort of stalk the enemy team from the side, and you just kind of either do it out of vision, or even if they're watching, it always just creates pressure that at any moment you could jump in. You don't really play Muradin at the front like most tanks. If you play him effectively, you're kind of just constantly flanking and just playing on the side of the fight. And doing that with Haymaker is a lot more scary and if you have the jump slow, if the enemy ever steps forward post level 16 when you have the jump range, if you can get onto either their healer so that they don't have a cleanse, or when their cleanse is down if they have one. Otherwise, you basically just you can kind of animation cancel the Haymaker by just jumping on the back, like on the back of their head, and then immediately Haymakering. There's pretty much no animation. The animation's really quick, so it's pretty hard to interrupt it. So yeah, I would say the main things are just playing on the flank and not being afraid to just jump in with your E to get the slow, and then immediately Haymaker to animation cancel it.
So Dwarf Launch has a 37% win rate, 72% popularity at 16, but they're not comboing the Haymaker or the Heavy Impact with it. And that together is what kind of makes that machine you're talking about.
Yeah, and a lot of pretty much like almost all the Murdens go either Skullcracker or give them the Axe at 7, because that combos with Avatar, just living in the enemy backline and doing damage. But I think that with how strong the supports are right now, none of them really care for Murden. It's just living in their backline. They can pretty easily heal through just a Murden's damage. So I don't think that playstyle really works anymore in the current meta. I think it's a lot more effective to just get the displacement from the Avatar and just be constantly pressuring any stragglers who sort of stray a little bit too far from their team in the fight. And you don't really need the damage talent at level 7 if you have the jump slow, because the 13, the fire damage, does increase damage if you hit your Stormbolt. So you can just set up your own Stormbolt with the jump slow. And unless they have a dash or something, there's no way to dodge it. So you end up doing more damage anyways, I think, just by reliably hitting every single Stormbolt off of the slow from your jump, because the fire at 13 procs up when you hit the Q.
Oh, that's true. Oh, that's a great combo.
Yeah. People should take it more.
That is very aggressive.
Yeah, I found you would think that you wouldn't have the damage to kind of just solo backliners with it, but I found that it feels like I do the same damage, honestly, from just being able to keep them in range with the slow. And the slow also gives you more time to auto attack to get the cooldown reduction on your Stormbolt that is just built in at level 10 now. So I found if there's a squishy ranged post level 16 all by themselves, there's pretty much no escaping the Muradin with this build. You just jump on their heads and get the E cooldown reduction, and then start slapping them and stunning them up pretty much permanently. They can't really go anywhere. They just slowly burn.
Gotta learn how to aim Haymaker is what I'm writing it down today.
But that's the 80% slow. Like that's what makes it so easy. Is you gotta hit your jump then. And I think jump is programmed like Tyrael's sword, where it'll jump regardless of where you put the location. So, which is good if you know how long it is, but it's really frustrating when you're first learning Muradin, because you're like, please, Muradin, go to this location and then jump here exactly where I told you to. He's like, you said jump that direction. I'm going right now.
Yeah, it'll just go max distance from wherever you currently are, essentially.
Right, right.
Figure it out. Yeah, that part of Muradin, it's part of learning him.
The only other thing with the Haymaker is you definitely need to be a little bit more patient with it. If you can use it just to peel yourself if you ever think you're in danger, which is why I don't think the Avatar is even really better for surviving, because you're usually dying to chain CC. But typically I'm on the flank. As soon as I hit a Stormbolt, just kind of fishing for Stormbolts if nothing's really happening. The second the Stormbolt hits, you just jump in and Haymaker them, and then they can't use any mobility or react to it in any way.
Oh, that's interesting. I hadn't thought about it in conjunction with the Stormbolt fishing, like you just mentioned. Huh. Very cool. We've got another question here from Crushinator, who wants to know, what was the most pleasantly surprising thing about the job of casting for CCL?
I think just being able to watch all the games, and because that's something that I probably watched more games as the analyst than I did watch VOD reviews ever in like my whole HOTS career. VOD reviews are kind of, well, okay, that's not true. Of like actual VOD reviews where you're like analyzing the games. I'd say my favorite part of being a pro player was watching the VODs when my team won, and my least favorite part of being a pro player was watching the VODs when my team lost. So
Fair.
a lot of the time, unless I watched them with my team, I wouldn't really watch the losing games. You know, if I'm celebrating and watching my games back and we're 3-1 in the series, I just kind of don't watch that loss if my team's doing good in general. But being able to kind of see the game and take notes on every single game has really given me a lot more perspective on what the other roles are doing, and kind of just it's given me a bit more, like, I don't think empathy is the right word, but for you know, feeling, it's given me more perspective of, you know, how the supports feel and how the ranged feel and how the offlaner feels and what kind of makes them effective, because I'm not playing from the perspective of the tank. I'm just watching everything unfold at the same time.
I get sympathetic for heroes I like playing. Like Kyle, you and I were talking about this off air. The very first game of 30K. It was the first game of the playoffs. 30K versus who they playing? Storm. So yeah, I love Brightwing, and that first damn game, I was just watching Brightwing like, yeah, BBJ, I don't want to be in your position because I don't know who to polymorph, because you polymorphed the Diablo and Hanzo just stood his ground and delivered a stupid amount of damage, or he polymorphed the damage and Diablo just ran amok. I was just sitting there like I was sweating on behalf of BBJ's Brightwing.
Yeah, you definitely notice a lot of things as a spectator that you don't notice as a player.
Yeah, it's an interesting watch for sure. Misfit wrote in and said, if the orb change was ever reverted, it probably won't, but humor me, would you consider going back to playing competitive HOTS, or are you happy enough where you are to stay on the casting side?
Is this a bait question? What,
a little.
Is there history here?
It reads right here. It follows it up with, this could lead to a discussion on his opinion of the experience orb's impact on competitive. So it does seem like it's a little bit of a bait question.
I'm guessing this is from my personal stream, kind of giving some my distaste for the XP changes that they put into the game. If it were up to me, I would revert the XP changes for everything but quick match. I think for quick match, all the XP changes are fine, and that's kind of like what it seemed like they were going towards, because all the pro players gave Blizzard feedback at the end of HGC. Before HGC got canceled, they put out all the XP changes, and then they asked us all to give them feedback, and then they canceled the HGC. So it seemed like they kind of used us at the end for feedback, which we gave them, and the feedback was fairly unanimous that all the pro players hated it, and they kind of just went along with it anyways. And I understand why they would do it if they're trying to, if they knew that they were downsizing and that they weren't going to have as many people working on the game. It's a lot harder to balance things when something can be too strong and can swing every game into a 3 or 4 level lead, which is what it used to do. So I kind of understand why they did it. They wanted everything to be a little bit more casual friendly. So if you go into quick match and you're playing against a team comp that is super like good, and you got like 5 Murkies, that you still have a chance because of the XP changes. But I would just revert the XP changes for everything but quick match, and I think that would be fine, and I think everyone in ranked would kind of prefer that as well. That's not the main reason that I took on the analyst position, though. I think it's more just sort of self-development and just trying something new. So no, I wouldn't come back to playing if they reverted the XP globes. It is tempting, because I mean, playing the game is fun, but something else is, if I play the game, I really want to dedicate like 100% of my time to it in the same way that I did in the HGC. So who knows, maybe if in 2 to 3 years from now the Bill Gates Super League comes out and it's, you know, even bigger than the HGC was, then I could see myself going back and playing. But where it stands right now, it's just I can't stop myself from getting just too absorbed in it, where it just takes up 100% of my time when I'm playing. So, you know, playing, doing draft theory, stuff like that. And so I just wouldn't be able to do that right now. But who knows? Maybe someday.
I'm trying to remember my HOTS change history, but did they mention the orbs to you? Because I thought the change that happened shortly after 2018's BlizzCon, which would have been, you know, right before the news about HGC, that was trickle XP, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was the forts giving the trickle XP and the catapults being attached to the forts. And they I think that was when they put all the comeback XP in place, and I think that was also when they made it so that towers and forts just gave like significantly less XP than before. It used to be if you got a tower early, that was a big deal for the XP. That was like a fourth of a level. Whereas now, if you get a tower early, it doesn't really impact the game's XP, and also the comeback XP. So yeah, the XP globes weren't the HCC change, but I was kind of just lumping that all together because the XP globes, don't change a whole lot. They mostly just change that wave clear is not as important as it used to be, because if you miss a wave, you can still get some of it back. But in general, I don't think the XP globes are that huge of a deal. The XP changes that they put in at the end of 2018 are definitely a much bigger deal.
You're now making me want like classic HOTS. Like you're like I want them to snapshot different metas and rotate through. Like for the next 3 months, we're gonna be on the 2018 balance build.
I mean, where would you want to go?
No, that's why you rotate it. I don't want to be stuck anywhere, but I kind of want to revisit some of the old stuff. Bring me back to tower ammo, dude. I miss old Zagara.
Okay. Oh, not executioner. What was it? Demolitionist?
Yes. Was that the one that
ammo and auto
consumed
attacks?
ammo?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a good talent. Yeah, I miss it. I honestly miss the tower ammo too, just because it actually punished the enemy team for not drafting enough wave clear, and then like that comboed with the XP changes, comboed with the XP globes, wave clear is just a lot less important. So it does feel like most games just come down to level 20 fights now.
You're making me nostalgic.
That was one of my like in my edgy phase of tweets, by the way, when I could tell the HGC was coming down a bit. That was one of my tweets, was like, people are lined up in the year is 2050 and people are lined up excited to try HOTS Classic. I think that's what the tweet was. It was after they announced they were releasing WoW Classic.
Oh my god. Yeah. I mean, again, like it's a great dunk, but also kind of want it. At least the option to go back. They had a classic to Hearthstone too, and I've been wanting them to kind of cycle through different metas there, because they just kind of, and they've been saying they're gonna up it, but it's just been stuck at vanilla Hearthstone since they launched it, and I'm just like, all right, can we? And they've been talking about like they're just going to start adding expansions. I'm like, that's cool, but then can you also take them away and go back to older ones, and don't just on the same track otherwise as we currently are, just on a delay. So I don't know. There's part of me.
What you're talking about is like time walking.
A little bit.
What we need is not World of Warcraft. We need Final Fantasy 14. We need to make every player go through the old patch content and level up through it. So they have, when you start the game, when you join, you have to play through X number of quick matches.
I don't know about
with tower ammo, and then the heroes slowly get added in, and then eventually Master Chief and Clippy and all them,
I don't know about that one, Kyle. I think we're taking it too far. I think Storm League do like meta seasons, like every 3 months, like we're going to a different snapshotted meta. Like
I want Hammond, the Overwatch ball. He was my favorite when I was playing Overwatch. The hamster in the ball that rolls around. I want him. If he was a main tank, that would be so much fun. That's the one I want.
I stopped playing Overwatch by that point, but yeah, thank you for.
Yeah, it was a one trick. My teammates didn't like it because they didn't understand what I was doing. But
barreling around into people like feels
it's
a little
so satisfying
to me. I guess, yeah. Or honestly, Chen too, because Chen with the barrel and the displacement and.
Yeah, it's like a barrel that you can swing around walls and do all kinds of cool techs with. You can like double bounce and triple bounce people. There's like a lot of cool tech to ball. I think if he was added to HOTS, it would be fun.
Being able to swing on terrain. That's just what
imagine
I need.
On the shrine.
Another
I guess
terrain
like
exploiting Overwatch hero.
Yeah,
that's rad. And then from the chat, the Apocalypse Shovel wanted to know who you would put on a CCL All-Star team.
That's tough. There's definitely quite a few standout players. A lot of them would probably come from 30K anyways. I think Dino Dino is kind of ridiculous on ranged. It looks like he just outclasses his opponents every single game, and he makes it flashy too. So I definitely have to take Dino. The tank I would be a little bit more torn on. I think I'd be between Tremor, Lauber, and Bad Benny for the tank position. It'd be kind of tough to choose. Support would also be hard to choose. Honestly, I would take either BBJ or Valimar. Even though Diamond Hands didn't do so hot, I think Valimar is just a standout player, and his team is a little bit more new. So I think he's just on a slightly weaker roster, so you can't really see it.
It's a team game, right? Like you can still stand out even if you don't. Maybe your team doesn't have the highest win rate.
Yeah.
Hang on, I want to make sure I get this. Yeah, Valimar's that insane Lucio. Absolutely nuts.
Yeah, Valimar's pretty nuts. So we'll just take Valimar. So I'd say Valimar, Dino. I would just pull in Mason Blaze and put him on flex, because even though he's kind of like the opposite of Dino, where he's not super flashy, but I think him and IB Things both are kind of in the same category where neither one of them is flashy, but they're both playing like nearly perfectly most of the time, just pumping out damage. So I'd say Dino. It's hard to choose a tank. So Dino, Valimar, Mason Blaze, either Tremor, Bad Benny, or Lauber, and then it's got to be Liam for the offlane. Liam has the infamous killing everybody clips and stuff like that on the URL. And yeah, Liam's just pretty nuts.
You got through that pretty quickly.
Yeah, that was well done.
That encyclopedic memory coming into play.
Yeah. Unfortunately only useful for HOTS encyclopedic memory.
Now do it if it was a Muppet movie. Who would be the one human on the team? Or you can pick Space Jam if you'd prefer.
Wait, what?
Have you seen the meme going around where you pick a movie, one actor stays as a human and everyone else gets replaced with a Muppet? That's the meme.
No, I haven't seen that.
Yeah. See, this is this is unfair to Bahamut, because if you have a beard, I think it's really easy to picture someone as a Muppet, and so I immediately have a Muppet Bahamut in my head.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yep. Well, thanks for the questions, everybody. Keep them coming. itncast@gmail.com, or drop us a message right there in our Discord. Skip the inbox entirely. But I think that's going to bring us to the end of this episode. Thanks again to our patrons supporting us over at patreon.com/ITN. Huge thanks to Declan H, Sean B, and Mike R, our Patreon producers. Got 2 slots left. It's been a while since we've had an opening for producers, so if you want to become one, check out the Patreon. We are typically live Thursdays at 3 p.m. Eastern, right here on twitch.tv/AMoveTV, or you can follow the show on Twitter at ITNcast. Before we go around the table, where can everybody find you? We'll start with this week's guest, Just Thing. Other than at the caster table this weekend for the CCL finals, everybody, you better watch. Where can everyone find you?
You can find me on Twitter at thisjusting, and same my Twitch and Twitter tag is thisjusting. So you can find me on Twitter rarely, and even more rarely on Twitch. But I stream semi-annually, so you might be able to catch one of my rare justing streams there.
Awesome. And again, this weekend, twitch.tv/Heroes Hearth. Do not miss the CCL Season 3 finals. It's a hell of a tournament. Everyone go out there and support it. It's been great. Justin, thanks again for joining us, dude. Really appreciate your time.
Yep, thanks for having me. It's been fun. It's been good.
Kyle, before we go, what about you, dude? You do more than just Into the Nexus.
I do all sorts of things like Grinding Gear, the Final Fantasy XIV show you should check out. I do DM Gives Inspiration, the Learn to Play 5th edition D&D show you should check out. But this week, let's talk about some heroes, because the team is together, and each Wednesday night there will be a match over at twitch.tv/Kyle Fergusson for the NGS, or a practice going on over there. So join me on support, Mockery on Assassin, Porky on Assassin, Cavalier Guest on Offlane, and Crushinator on main tank, as well as other subs you may know from the Heroes of the Storm community.
Sorry, I'm just defending myself to Bahamut. I wasn't saying you look like a Muppet. I'm just saying when I see a beard, I can picture someone as a Muppet. Folks, I'm Garrett Art on Twitter. Find me on there. This podcast and every single other one that I produce can be found at amove.tv. But again, I really, really want to promote Kyle and myself with our first ever true YouTube project. We are documenting our first ever playthrough of Final Fantasy XIV as we slowly chew through it. And you can find that at youtube.com/amovetv. The series is called Grinding Gear. And we just made it to Heaven's Ward. Made it to our first expansion. We got through what everyone says is the boring bit. Well, some people. Other people what's wrong with ARR? I like it. But anyway, youtube.com/amovetv. That's going to wrap it for this episode of Into the Nexus. We'll see you next week. But until then, everybody, good luck and have fun.
Take care.